Hello and welcome back to Wheels Boy Chat. I know we've been gone for a while. We tend to do that, but we are back and we are excited to talk to another guest about an exciting topic related to the Chinese car market. My guest and, I think, long-term co-host, Mr. Will Sundin today.
Yep, hi, and welcome to Wheels Boy Chat.
Welcome to Wheels Boy Chat. The topic of today's discussion, as you've probably garnered from the title of this video, which I haven't written yet, but is going to have something to do with HiPhi and its inevitable, death. So first of all, Will, let's talk a little bit about what is HiPhi and why are we talking about HiPhi right now when, in fact, we didn't really care when some other Chinese car makers, WM Motors, iWays, Innovate, either completely disappeared at this point or are on their very, very last legs. So what is about HiPhi that you think is interesting?
So, like, HiPhi, I think, is just, people just deem it as a kind of cool, quirky brand, but they didn't deem it apparently cool enough or good enough to actually go out and buy one.
So HiPhi is a pure electric brand that operates in a pretty rare space for a Chinese automaker of any kind of powertrain, which is above, say, around 500,000 RMB. Their first two models, the X and the Z, we'll put some footage on screen because our little models here are very, very small, were both priced in well in excess of 500,000 RMB, which is around 75,000 USD or so, give or take. That is not something you see a lot from Chinese automakers of almost any price point, especially for them to have cars only in those price categories to begin with, right? And as it turned out, as you said, they're cool because they've got funky doors. They've got, you know, in the case of the HiPhi Z, a center screen that dances and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But
No one bought that many.
no.
And even when they decided to bring out the Y, which was supposedly meant to be their lower cost, kind of mainstream, mass market car, still nobody bought one. So, I mean, I've seen one on the road.
You live in Changsha. Here in Shanghai, I've seen 3.
Yeah.
Maybe 4.
I'm not sure the one I saw wasn't just a test drive vehicle, so.
Also very possible that at least one of the ones that I saw was actually a dealership test drive vehicle and not a personally owned car, a privately owned car. But either way, it seemed like buyers were like, that's really cool. I'm not ready to plop down that much money for one.
I think like some of the problem is, right, some of this stuff, it's you know, HiPhi will claim it's been tested so many times, but when you have something like the doors that seem really complicated and the screen that's doing all of this, people do wonder, like, the longevity of those probably very expensive to replace parts, and rightly so. So I think that's also, it's cool, but it's a liability. Right, and since they haven't been around that long, and there aren't that many cars that have been on the road for, you know, a huge amount of time, no one really knows the reliability of those parts, right?
Right, of those like wild features that get you and I views on YouTube, but aren't necessarily, like, it's the difference between I test drive HiPhis and I go, this is really cool, and then people in the comment section ask me like, well, what happens if one of the 3 robot arms on the center screen for the HiPhi Z has a malfunction? And my answer is, I don't know.
Rips itself out of the dashboard.
Right.
Yeah.
It dances off beat.
Yeah, so I'd say, yeah, the biggest problem is they're in that super premium price segment, which is already like low volume, obviously. And therefore, when you're spending that much money as well, you're trying to rip people away from very established, very well-respected brands and say, no, hey, try out this wacky thing we've got going on over here. It's really good. It's a tough sell.
It is, especially when you're competing against stuff from, as they say, BBA in China, Beamer, Benz, and Audi, or Porsche and, you know, Porsche, don't you dare call it Porsche, you neophyte. Or even higher end, more established premium brands from Chinese companies like NIO, right? A NIO ES8 or something is in the same price category as almost like a base HiPhi.
Yeah, so like HiPhi obviously haven't spent as much in maybe marketing and trying to build that brand, and that's could be a problem for them going forwards, I think.
So good transition there. Going forwards,
Yes.
I like to call out my good transitions. It really undermines them. But we need to talk about the fact that there has been discussion of someone buying HiPhi, and there are various potentialities that have been discussed. For example, there was a rumor going around that Huawei was going to buy them, which very quickly turned out to be false. And also, when you think about it, it doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
There was also the main one, the one that seems to have the most legs, is the rumor that Chinese central-owned automaker Changan, based in Chongqing in central China, they were talking about, the CEO of HiPhi visited Chongqing and met with some people from Chang'an. We do not know. We do not know what they discussed. We just know that that's, as of now,
A picture was taken.
A picture was taken. And that's the most likely scenario that we can see, is that Chang'an would buy, say, 51% of HiPhi. Now, why does that make sense for Changan to do you think?
Well, before that, what I was going to say is actually, you know, what actually happened in this whole saga is rumors came out that people weren't getting paid in HiPhi.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the drama leading up.
Yeah, so this is very normal. This is normally how we hear that a company's in trouble, is on social media. Suddenly, like, employees start talking about they haven't been paid their salaries or bonuses are delayed. And then all of a sudden there's factory stoppages, and there may be some store closings, and then eventually it comes out, yeah, we're in financial trouble, and then HiPhi themselves came out and said, you know, yeah, we've got 3 months, and then so rumors started to fly around about if someone would buy them and who they might be, and yeah, so the most kind of one that seems to be the one that everyone's talking about is the Chang'an one, but not so much to go on other than we know they were kind of in the same room with each other.
Right. Let's pretend that it's legit. Let's just say, what do we think are the reasons that Chang'an would want to buy them?
They don't have a premium brand.
They don't have a premium brand that operates in that price category that we're talking about. They've got they've got Avatar.
Right, yeah.
But Avatar is actually a joint venture, right?
3-way, isn't it?
Yes, it's a 3-way joint venture. So it's Chang'an, it's CATL, the battery company, and then also Huawei, right?
Yes.
And so I can tell you that I know that Chang'an's already created another new energy vehicle brand, so a hybrid and pure electric brand, the Qiyuan brand. We did a review of the A07, and I know from talking to people at Chang'an, that was done. One of the major reasons was because that brand is purely owned by Changan. It is a Changan brand, not a joint venture. Fine. And so they wanted to have more ownership of it. Now, it makes sense in terms of filling in a gap in their lineup.
Yeah, but go back to that. Like, Avatar, they just dropped all the prices on them.
Yes.
Right? And considerably, like, you know, big price cut by them. So does it make sense for buying a car company in this price bracket?
Not if the problem with that price bracket, right, is that there can't be that much. Well, premium brands usually have higher margins, but in the price war that's going on here in China right now, which is absolutely outrageous, cars that were supposed to hit the market at, say, $45,000 are hitting the market at less than $30,000. And so brands like HiPhi, they're selling to, they're no longer competing with cars that are in their price category. They're competing with cars that are considerably cheaper than them, but have similar features and stuff, as that's kind of like, that's democratized all these different things that were reserved for high-end vehicles are now on kind of regular mainstream cars, like heated and cooled and ventilated seats and and so, yeah, it's difficult for a brand like that operates in that high category or that high price category at this point in this market to justify that.
And HiPhi are obviously looking for somebody to invest and keep the brand alive, right? They're not quite at the point where they're selling off, I don't know, anything they have, right? They want someone to come in so they can keep the brand going, and yeah, that's I think is it's difficult. Like I don't see just somebody coming in how that helps their situation, because their situation seems to be perpetuated by the high price point and lack of sales.
Right, and I don't think that listen, it helps when certain brands. We can both name a few brands that if they didn't have the backing of major corporations at this point, like new energy brands, EV brands, would probably have already gone bust.
Yeah.
And so it does help to have that backing, but it's one of those things. If you're Changan, are you just going to just buy into something that you don't really have a way of making profitable?
Yes.
And so, yeah, here's the other thing that I will add into this, which is that Changan is a centrally owned automaker, a state-owned automaker, and it is known for being one of the least flexible. It is known for being one of the most centrally administrated, i.e., when things happen there, they happen slowly and through the layers of bureaucracy. And so HiPhi says we've got 3 months to live. Changan says it will take us I'm thinking the Changan people are thinking it will take us a year and a half to get anything like this approved. So there is, I think, almost zero chance that Changan can come together on a deal before that timeline is over.
Are people going to be sad if HiPhi goes away?
That's a great question. Personally, as a car reviewer who drives so many dozens of cars a year, I got excited when a new HiPhi would come out, because I knew it was going to be something really different from the X with the crazy doors and the giant screens. Before any of that was a thing, the automatic electrically operated doors, right, which are now, it's so funny, we talk about this, these are the type of things that are appearing on really high-end foreign brand vehicles, and they're like, can you believe it? We've got electrically operated doors. And I'm thinking to myself, we've been doing this in China for 3 years.
Yes.
Thank you for catching up on cars that cost like half of the car that you are talking about putting them on. But from that perspective, they're interesting and exciting and different. And they also drove well, especially the Z.
Yeah, the Z. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Y.
Right.
But it's just too expensive compared to its competitors.
Right. So it debuted at mid 300,000 RMB, 350,000 or so, I think was the base price.
And the ES6 had just come out a few months earlier, which is one of their main benchmarks. Yes.
So the Neo S6 was at that time like 320, and now and you get battery as a service, right? You rent the battery, and you also forego the free swaps for the first year.
It's well under 300,000.
It's well under 300,000 RMB, which again, 300,000 RMB is around the ballpark of like a little over 40,000 USD. So the HiPhi Y it had enough cool features to separate it from the bunch, but so many cool features that they couldn't afford to sell it probably for what Neo can sell in ES6.
Yeah. So it also comes down, like, what does HiPhi own? Like, what out of all this stuff is their IP? Because the thing is, when we review HiPhi, one of the things in their kind of product documentation is all of these third-party suppliers that they work with to either supply these things or maybe co-develop. It's not really quite clear. So, yes, they have this robot arm, but was that actually developed? Yeah, was that actually developed by them? Do they actually own that?
Right.
Right.
I was saying earlier that recently there was I have heard. I think I was listening to the China EVs and More podcast, and they were talking about the fact that the HiPhi X was in a recent test of a winter range test, so very extreme cold temperature range test, and it performed better than everybody else, or at the very near the top. And the question is, like, great for the HiPhi X. Does HiPhi own any of the patents involved with that battery technology?
Yeah, I mean, talking about batteries, HiPhi, they charge so slowly as well.
Yeah, they're not, but they're nowhere near. I think they're 400 volt architectures.
Yeah, but like it's the Z, right? It's got a huge battery, but it takes like nearly an hour to charge the thing.
Yeah, I remember it's like 50 minutes.
Yes.
Which on a fast charger, obviously,
yes.
which is really crazy.
Yeah, it's slow.
Yeah, it's not, especially when we're talking about a world where we have Li Auto Megas that can do it in 12 minutes and charge 500 kilometers.
So like these platforms now are already, kind of
outdated.
Yeah, in that kind of battery aspect at least, right? Driving wise, I was saying to you earlier, driving wise, yeah, sure. The Z might be really, really good at not the Z. Yes,
the Z, yes.
Yeah, the Z might be really, really good at driving, but that's almost like not that of an important feature for Chinese consumers, right? And nearly
Right.
every brand that makes a model that kind of stakes its claim on its driving ability, like the IML7, they don't sell well.
Right. They'll come out and go like, our chassis was tuned by Williams Engineering.
Yeah.
And the market's answer to that is, woohoo. I
Yes.
mean, it's very cool for, like, again, car reviewers. It's a brand that car reviewers love.
Yes.
And consumers love to watch videos about and then not buy.
Exactly, right? Because we get to go there, they'll be like, here's a little track, go around, you have loads of fun with it. And your average person in China drives in an American-style grid system.
Right.
With traffic lights every now and again, with no, road speeds normally not over 60 kilometers an hour.
Right. And they have no need for a really finely tuned chassis like the HiPhi Z has.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I think the answer is who will be sad? Car reviewers.
Yes.
And the brave HiPhi owners.
10-year-old boys with posters on their walls.
Correct.
Kind of those kind of things.
I will say, as a final note, my deepest condolences to those of you who did buy a HiPhi, because at this point the prices, as you can imagine, secondhand prices on the vehicles have absolutely cratered. I mean,
And for those who don't have one, it's a great time to get something.
if you are brave, now is a really good time to get your hands on an extremely cool car for what is probably a very, very, very low price. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Wheels Boy Chat. I hope that we've covered thoroughly enough the topic of HiPhi. I hope that somebody buys them and that they continue to go. If for no other reason, then it gives me some other car review to look forward to doing.
Yes.
As opposed to, another boring electric car.
Sure. Yes. The same. Like, it will be a shame if they've gone because they were so quirky. Let's be honestly, like, sometimes with EVs, you get to the point where the features aren't, moving the game on, because now, especially now in the price war, people are working to a price point.
Right.
So it's not the time to go crazy and, develop something insane like gull-wing doors.
You put a bigger screen in it and then you say that you've won.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you very much for joining us in today's discussion. If you guys have any questions or comments about this topic or some topics you'd like to hear us talk about in the future, please leave them in the comment section below. Keep in mind that this discussion is being had at, my watch doesn't have a date, actually. I think today's the 15th.
Oh, the 15th.
This is being recorded on the 15th of March, so a lot could have changed by the time it gets out, but that is the situation as of right now. In the meantime, again, let us know in the comment section below if you have any thoughts, and we will see you on the next episode.